A young man started work at a factory when he was barely out of school. He wasn't the loudest, he wasn't the most confident, but he had one advantage. He was willing to learn. An old technician named Mr. Keller took him under his wing. Mr. Keller didn't talk much, but when he did, people listened. On the first day, he told the young man 3 rules. Talk less, do more, and never stop sharpening your skills. Not just one skill, every skill the factory could teach: machines, troubleshooting, quality checks, safety routines, even how to keep calm when everything goes wrong. The young man listened, and for years he worked like that, quiet, focused, diligent. While others argued, he fixed problems. While others complained, he learned. While others sought attention, he sought mastery. 10 years passed. Mr. Keller retired, and the young man, now a technician himself, kept working with the same discipline. But inside, something began to ache. He watched newer workers get promoted. He watched louder workers get noticed. He watched people with less skill earn more money. And one day, he couldn't hold it in anymore. He went to visit his old mentor. Mr. Keller opened the door slowly, older now, but with the same steady eyes. He looked at the young man and said, "You're carrying something heavy. Sit." The young man sighed. "I followed your rules," he said. "I talked less, I worked more, I learned everything I could." He swallowed. "But the people who do less than me are getting promoted. I'm still here, doing the hardest work, earning almost the same as I did when I was your apprentice." Mr. Keller listened without interrupting. Then he asked one question. "Are you sure you've become indispensable?" The young man nodded quickly. "Yes." Mr. Keller stood up and paced slowly, thinking. Then he stopped and said, "Tomorrow, take the day off." The young man blinked. "A day off?" "Yes," Mr. Keller said. "Any reason you like. Family, sickness, personal business, doesn't matter." The young man looked confused. Mr. Keller added, "You've been working like a machine. Give yourself 1 day of silence." The advice sounded strange, but the young man trusted him. So the next morning he requested a day off. When he returned the following day, the manager called him into the office. The manager looked tired. "We had a rough day," he said. "The line stopped twice, a calibration failed, a quality issue popped up." He leaned forward. "Normally, you handle those things. Yesterday, people didn't even know where to start." Then the manager sat back and said, "I'm promoting you to senior technician." The young man felt a rush of relief. Finally! He walked out of the office thinking, "So this is the secret." And in that moment, he misunderstood the lesson. Because he didn't just learn, "My absence reveals my value." He learned something more dangerous. If I want respect, I should disappear. So whenever he felt underpaid, overlooked, or unappreciated, he took another day off. And another. At first, it worked. Every time he came back, someone would say, "Thank goodness you're here. We needed you. Everything went wrong without you." The attention felt good. The recognition felt like proof. And slowly, the factory began to feel like this. When he was there, things ran smoothly. When he wasn't, things fell apart. He felt powerful. He felt needed. Months passed. Then one morning he arrived at the factory gate and his access card didn't work. He tried again. Beep, red light. A guard approached and said quietly, "Sir, you're not on the list." His stomach dropped. He walked to the office, heart pounding, and asked for the manager, and that's when he heard the sentence that shattered him. "Your employment has been terminated." He couldn't breathe properly. "Terminated?" he whispered. "Why? I do the hardest jobs. I solve the problems nobody else can." The manager's voice wasn't angry. It was calm.
That's exactly the problem. You became the only person who could keep things running, but you also became the person we couldn't rely on. The young man left in shock. Not knowing what else to do, he returned to Mr. Keller. Mr. Keller listened as the young man poured out everything: promotions, days off, the firing. When the young man finally stopped talking, he asked with wounded pride, "Why did I lose my job? Didn't I do what you told me?" Mr. Keller shook his head slowly. "You heard only half the lesson." The young man frowned. "Half?" Mr. Keller walked to a small lamp on the table and tapped it gently. He said, "Nobody pays attention to a light bulb that is always on. It becomes invisible. It's only when it goes off that people suddenly realize how much they depended on it." The young man nodded eagerly, as if saying, "Exactly." But Mr. Keller lifted a finger. "And now the second half." He leaned closer and spoke slowly. "If a light bulb goes off frequently, sooner or later, it gets replaced." The young man's face froze. Mr. Keller continued, "People don't replace light bulbs because they hate them. They replace them because they need reliability. Who wants a light they can't count on?" Silence filled the room. Then Mr. Keller said something softer. "Be valuable, yes, but don't become a problem disguised as a solution." He paused. "Real mastery is not only being needed. Real mastery is being trusted." The young man lowered his head. Mr. Keller added that there's another balance he missed. "You worked hard, but you stayed invisible. You believed talk less meant never speak. But respect doesn't only come from skill. Sometimes it comes from communicating your value, calmly, professionally, at the right time. Not begging, not boasting, simply making sure your work doesn't disappear." The young man finally understood what the mentor had meant all along. Don't weaponize your absence. Don't punish the world to prove your worth. Be reliable, be visible, and keep growing. Then Mr. Keller ended with a line the young man would never forget. "Don't wait to be missed to be appreciated. Build a life where people can count on you, and a voice where your value can be recognized."